Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Not Quite Strangers. This podcast is dedicated to bringing two people together who may not know each other very well or at all in this case, and have a meaningful conversation. And we hope that this inspires your curiosity, that we shift your perspective and ultimately establish a connection, not only between the two people who come to the show, but if you're listening, perhaps you're connecting to something that they share with you as well. My name is Valerie Hope. I'm your host. I'm also a coach as well as a professional speaker. And I like to bring a lot of different people to the show. And today I happen to bring people that I work with in some way, shape, or form. We'll start off by introducing you, Donald. Donald, you actually have been my coaching client for a while. You and I met through UC Berkeley. And as you were going through the certification course, I was assigned to you as your coach, and we've had some fantastic conversations, even beyond our coaching interactions. I had an opportunity to connect with you. And one of the things I really appreciate about you, Donald, is how open you are and curious about people. You've shared so much with me about your own journey, the things that you're passionate about, your goals and visions. I won't reveal any of those here. We maintain confidentiality in coaching, but you're welcome to share whatever you'd like. But I thought, as we were one of our last conversations, I thought, man, it would be so cool to have you talk about some of the journeys that you've taken in your life on the podcast. And then I was like, who could I connect you to that would be an interesting conversation? And then all of a sudden, ta-da, Najaf. Najaf came to mind. And Najaf, you and I know we've only met a few months ago now, but because of Toastmasters. And we've had many conversations, sometimes like random conversations. You're super curious about life. You're so enthusiastic and energetic around anything that has to do with leadership. You've encouraged me in many ways, in ways that I didn't want to be encouraged. But you are always very, very open and very kind. And I so appreciate that. I know it took a moment for you to say yes to the invitation to be on the podcast. It took you a minute, but ultimately you said, hey, why not? And so I am really grateful about that. I think the two of you could have really interesting conversations, especially around your path. Leadership seems to be the theme that I discovered could be a nice thread between the three of us. But that's why I brought the two of you guys together. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good seeing you, Valerie. Just nice meeting you.
Thank you so much, Valerie, having me. It's a pleasure meeting you, Mr. Donald Stup. It's my honor. Thank you.
Oh, you don't have to call him Mr. Donald. Does he need to call you Mr. Donald? Do I need to call you Mr.
No,
Donald?
yeah, I don't think so.
I don't know. I have to get rid of that,
What? Get rid of what?
Yeah, just calling people Mr., Mrs., Ma'am, and I just a part of the speech I am having right now.
Well, we'll start talking about that exactly. So, Najaf, you speak with a certain accent, right? I live in Texas. I know you live in Texas as well, but that's not where you're originally from. So we'll start with that question. Najaf, where does this accent indicate you're from?
That's a very good question, Valerie. The accent is coming from Azerbaijan, which is in a post-Soviet country. Baku is the capital. So if you look at the post-Soviet Union, Azerbaijan, Georgia, Ukraine, and the rest of the countries, it's more than Slovak and a Turkish accent, I would just say the mix. Yeah, that's very similar with that. Like some of those STAN countries, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, my guess is that accent has come from there. I don't know how much it shifted and changed while I was there. Yeah, but seems like an accent is from those regions.
Wow. And do people notice when you speak to friends and family, do they notice your accent shift since you're living here in Texas?
I haven't heard anything, but I'm looking forward maybe some positive.
Not yet. And Donald, what about your accent? It's very particular. Where is this accent from?
It's from Maryland, actually. So I spent a lot of my life in Maryland before I moved down to South Carolina now. So it is unique, and I've heard some people identify that they recognize Maryland, but I didn't recognize Maryland had an accent. So it was news to me that someone actually said, "Oh, you're from Maryland." And it's like, how do you know that? But
Huh.
it is.
That's that's interesting because I have a Baltimorean accent, Baltimore, and I didn't. Yeah, that's what I usually introduce myself in the U.S., but I didn't get you.
From Baltimore, really?
Yeah,
People say
yeah, yeah. That's my home city in U.S.
interesting. I had no clue. How long have you been in Texas?
Texas around the 7 years,
7 years. And
but I
Donald, how
like
long
it.
have you been? I'm sorry, what?
No, I just first arrived to Baltimore, and that's what I usually people if you can't explain the accent, say it's Baltimore accent if you don't know. But I didn't say it to Donald. You know.
Your accent is from Baltimore. And Donald, how long have you lived in South Carolina? North or South? I'm sorry.
South.
South.
So I've been in South Carolina since about 15 years.
15 years already. Nice.
Yep.
Well, I like to start the conversation by asking, besides me saying, "Hey, would you like to be on my podcast?" Right? Besides the invitation I extended, why did you say yes to meeting a complete stranger on a podcast? Whoever wants to go first.
For me, it's just knowing you, Valerie. I mean, you're so wonderful to talk to anytime. Why would you have a bad idea?
Ask my brothers. I appreciate that.
You can put their numbers in chat, and we'll make
They'll reach
phone
out.
calls.
Cool. All right. Thank you. Anything else about that, Donald?
Just it sounded intriguing, so wanted to see how it went, and I think it's a good idea, and I think it's pretty simple to meet someone and just get to know them.
Okay. Very cool. Najaf, what about for you? Why did you say yes?
I like meeting strangers in a good way, you know. And the reason is because I like humans and I like talking to people. It's not because of my accent that I try to change and learn English, but I think like when you meet the new stranger, you always talk about something different, something new, and you learn about this person. I said, yes, Donald's going to be that person. I'm going to learn and speak about him and see who he is. And that's from there. I said, oh, I like this show. The name is Strangers. That's perfectly matching. I said, yeah, Valerie, I appreciate that you invited me. You know, that drives me. Yeah, that's my motivation.
All right, cool. I appreciate that. And yes, you never know who you're going to meet and what you're going to talk about. I don't even know what we're going to talk about. And so maybe the other question I have off the top is, what do you expect to get from this experience?
I don't know. I just to ask me at the end.
Okay.
I'm just looking to be a part of the community and have a conversations. I have been part of the podcast in the past, and I said, you know, it's live streaming, recorded. It's a good way for me to later to watch myself and see what I can improve. It's just for educational learning purposes for myself. It's going to be beneficial too.
So you're going to do like a playback and review, and let's
edit, delete.
I'm not editing anything. This is it. Cool. Well, so I'm curious, as you came on and I introduced the two of you, what question popped up in your mind that you'd like to ask your fellow guest or would like to put on the table for us to talk about?
Oh, I saw that's at
well,
the
I
end
would say the first. You go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I didn't know. Donald. Go ahead, Donald.
Well, the first thing I had when he was talking about where he originated from, that he was in Texas. So I was like, well, how long will it take you to get like the Texas drawl into your accent?
Me?
When you're gonna pick up? Yeah, when you're gonna pick up that Texas part of it and then merge it with your current accent?
Yeah. I think I have to go to some Western places, start dancing the Western country music, maybe try to sing with Blake Shelton or somebody. I don't know. I can, I've been on oil fields for a long time in the Mississippi shore on the rigs and everything, but I never picked up those Mississippi accent or from the shore accent. So I was hoping to catch up some different type, but it never worked out. So maybe I need to add something into my accent to put some straw here, maybe.
Yeah. Well, you lead me to my next question, because I want to know, do you have cowboy boots yet? Do you have a cowboy hat?
I have a cowboy hat and I have a cowboy boots, but I can't dance like a cowboy. I mean, I can put the hat, but you know what they say about the painters, you know, you can put the shoes on a hat on, but if that don't sound like that, it's never going to work out.
Not enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I will try.
Okay.
I will try for the next episode. I should have had my hat. Yeah.
Wait. Are you saying in with all of us as witnesses that you will wear a hat, you'll wear your boots, and you will dance for the next episode?
I don't think the dance part is going to be good, but the hat, the boots, definitely, man.
It doesn't have to be good. You know, have you seen the internet? How many things on the internet are good?
You want me to do the 2 steps?
2 steps, 8 steps, doesn't matter. Waltz.
I'd be in the audience, I tell you that, but don't forget the straw you got to have the straw on your cheek too, so don't forget that.
I think he's looking for one. Oh, there.
Yeah. I don't think it's good.
Cool. Najaf, do you have any questions for Donald yet?
Yes, I have. I have a slew of questions, and I'm just thinking while we're speaking with Donald, which questions shall I ask? You're such an interesting person, Donald. Shall I ask about your background? I will just go from the easy one I decided to come up. How did you learn to drive?
I
think that's the first time anyone's asked this question.
That's true. Other than maybe my driver instructor when he was giving me the test, maybe that was the only other time someone asked me that, like, how did you learn how to drive? No, I'm not. Let's see. My mom and my brother was like, it's time to drive. Got behind the wheel and just, like, you know, other than training wheels where my mom pushed me and I went forward, I pushed my own self with the gas pedal. But other than that, it was interesting because I was 15, of course, when I learned how to drive, learner's permit. And then I went to school, but then we moved right during that time. So as we moved about an hour away, I did a lot of trips on the highway back and forth, moving some of our stuff. So I really learned a lot to driving. But then once I moved, still in school, I had to take driver's training all over again and go through the whole process again because I wasn't old enough to get my license when I left. And then so I had double the training. How about that? So.
Wow.
That's very interesting. All right. So it just reminded me, and Najaf, I want you to answer the question too. So I think it's such an interesting question because all of us at some point or another probably interacted with a class or, you know, experience learning. So I don't want to talk about when I first learned to drive like a regular car, but what brought to mind, Donald, as you were sharing, was when I first learned to drive a stick shift, right? Manual transmission. What?
I can't drive.
No, I want to ask you to. But I remember my dad was in the military and he was stationed in Korea for a couple of years and he knew he was going to be leaving and he had a manual transmission truck. And it was my senior year, I think, in college. And I begged him, I'm like, Dad, can I please have your car while you're gone? Because what are you going to do with it for 2 years? It's going to sit in a parking lot somewhere gathering dust and rust or whatever. And he's like, well, you don't know how to drive a stick shift. I'm like, I'll learn, I promise, please. And so he said, okay. He left the truck at the airport. And it was great because I had a friend of mine who did know how to drive a stick shift and took me down to the airport along with my older brother, and we drove the car back to the university. Well, I learned to drive on, and I went to the University of Alabama, which is a huge university, homecoming day, when everybody was at the football game and the streets were completely empty, is when I started my driving lessons. And a friend of mine from Albania, she was the one that taught me how to drive a stick shift. And we practiced. And the hardest thing was trying to get out of the hill from the Walmart parking lot, which was this little incline. But I spent pretty much the whole day on homecoming day driving around campus all over. And I'm like, that's how I learned to drive a stick shift. It's been great. And now I still have an automatic, but I'm so grateful. Najaf, what about for you? What's your story? Huh?
Can you drive a stick shift? Najaf, do you like driving a stick shift, or do you?
I don't think I'm good driving a stick shift. No, I
Not
can
yet,
drive
not yet.
Maybe I need a good coach, that's why we're here. No, the way I learned to drive is such an interesting story. One of my colleagues at work, he decided, Najaf, do you want to learn to drive? I said, yeah, because my parents, we didn't have a car. I said, yeah, I will teach you how to drive. Jump in a company truck. Let's go somewhere and I will show you how to drive. He drove me to the woods. So inside the woods with big trees around, that's a big pickup truck. And he said, sit over here and put your feet over there on the gas. And I'm driving, and I can't drive because of the trees. And I'm worried about it. I'm holding the steering wheel. I don't know how to drive because I'm worried about hitting the trees. And there's no open area. Everything was jammed. Of course, I hit the truck to the tree.
The work truck?
Yeah, work truck. We had to bring the truck back and explain and that was the bad experience. So it took me another year to come back behind the wheels to start practicing again. And I had an instructor. This instructor was always holding everything on his side. And I felt like he's actually driving and I'm sitting over there and I'm not doing anything. So I went and downloaded the manual and I put the barrels and I started doing a parallel parking myself instead of actually driving. So it took me 2 years for the parallel parking. Instead of driving, I was practicing the parallel parking.
Just parking.
So I learned how to parallel park. I didn't learn how to drive. So then I had to figure out from parallel parking, I had to learn to drive. So it's crazy stuff.
Does your friend know that he has scarred you? And then I'm curious too, does your friend ever realize there's like an open parking lot that might not have obstacles for you to aim at?
I think he truly believed in my abilities, but when he realized I have no recollection what is the steering wheel and the gas and the pedal, I realized, I have to take this guy out. And we actually drove over the hill and hit the trees up top this slope. And he was freaking. He was holding the steering wheel, trying to grab it from me. And I was just laughing and I felt bad, but I explained my supervisor, no, it was just me. So, and they understand.
What happened? Did you get fired or something? What happened?
No, they put us on a couple of days under notice, but they brought us back. Yeah, it wasn't a big damage, just the light in the front was destroyed.
All right, nothing dangerous. Very, interesting to think about that first memory. I'm curious. One of the things that I thought would be interesting for the two of you to talk about and share was, both of you have different career paths. You mentioned the people, working with different people. Obviously, Donald, you're working your way towards being a coach. Najaf, you mentioned working on oil rigs, that sort of thing. So I'm curious about, how did you pick the careers that you chose, and what do you like about it, and what do you look forward to? Start with that.
Najaf, you want to go first?
All right. What careers we chose and how we came up. I have to go back in the memories, when I was young. I always want to be a writer. I like to write a lot, but it didn't work out that I became an engineer. So in my time, I remember I used to translate a lot of books and write the script for the movies. I was a big movie fan. I want to write the scripts and a book, Jules Verne, and all the classic writers. But The way it happened is when I was at school, I really loved the math very, very much, math and physics and a technical subject. But I had a passion for writing and it never connected with the history. So I went to the technical subject and I became an electrical petroleum engineer in my career because I was really good at the math. But now in back after years forward, I realized, I could have been a good history teacher. Kind of takes me back. Yeah, I could have used those skills of writing it, but it never connected. Maybe I didn't have a good teachers, something like that in the past, but I kind of regret it. I want to turn the time machine back to go and try it second time, but in life, it's a little bit late.
Why? Why is it late?
I want to be like, again, at 10, 12 years old, sitting behind a desk and studying a history. I did a history. I studied history this age, but I want to go back and tell the teachers, I like you, teach me this. I want a different career. But no, I am blessed. I had a great career. I'm an engineer by background. And I've been blessed to meet a lot of interesting and very talented people in my career.
So from desire to write to now engineering, people that the engineers read books too.
That's true.
There is a history of engineering, right? So
that's a good one. Next one.
There are. Oh, that's fascinating. How do you do that now? What do you do to get that writing to activate your writing desire? How do you practice that?
I used to practice. I stopped doing it and it's bad. I should keep doing it. I was doing like 30 minutes a day writing. And any subject, just go and find something online and type it for 30 minutes and write. Don't think about it, just type. And I used to do that and I stopped doing it. But I'm glad I'm here right now back at this podcast and encouraged me to go and do what I actually want to do. Good.
All right. You got to give us credit for it, though. You share the byline.
Good
Inspired by Valerie and Donald.
My next book.
Very cool. Donald, what about for you? What's been your path? And what do you look forward to?
Well, I wanted to find a job that would be something that would be secure. So in searching for a secure job, I found one through the government, which I thought that's going to be secure. And I stayed in it for a while, and then I got into management and I really liked it. And as I grew into management, I got more higher up into leadership and never left it. So I love doing that. And then I got involved with coaching, met Valerie, learned a lot from her, learned a lot from Berkeley. So that was a great experience. And then in just talking with her, and then I did a whole bunch of coaching in my own, not my personal business, but in my career, in my current job, that I like it so much that I started my own company. It's called Aim for Value, and so I'm going to put a plug in for that. How about that? Aim for Value. You can contact me at dstup@outlook.com. So there's my plug. And I was taught by the best, who's Miss Valerie for sure. And I love doing that because it's people are interesting, because there's not anybody that if you don't pay attention to and listen to that you can't learn something from. So it's fascinating. Everybody's fascinating if you listen to them and just pay attention to them and listen to what they say. And there's nobody you can't learn from, right? So it's interesting. And then with the coaching style of conversation that you learn to do, you can pull out questions and help people discover themselves. So that's where I'm at.
Look at that. First of all, I don't think I knew that you started your business officially. I think we've talked about the desire and the ideas, but I didn't know that you had like your name and all of that stuff. When did this happen?
Not too long ago, because so I don't have a website yet. So I don't have that done yet. but do have it established and do have some clients. So I think I shared that maybe with you. So it's going good, but I want more. So Najaf, if you know anybody, friends, family, anyone,
Yay!
contact me and we'll see if we can plumb their depths, and then I can tell you how much I enjoyed, or at least maybe they'll tell you how much I enjoyed.
I'm a little bit surprised that your LinkedIn profile doesn't say that. I mean,
well, and okay, so to be honest with LinkedIn profile, in fact, my wife has told me you got to update that because I haven't updated that for a long time. It still has like I'm a black belt in Lean Six Sigma. So I'm sure as an engineer, and Jeff, you've heard of Lean Six Sigma, right?
Right.
So I'm a master black belt now, and I haven't updated in a while, but I'm sure after this is aired and I talk to my wife and I bring that it's come up, I'm going to probably be doing LinkedIn tomorrow morning around 7 a.m.
There you go. That's awesome. Yeah, I should add you as a friend.
Look at you're already connecting. So Donald, what was the name of the business again? Aim
for Value.
Aim for Value. Okay, got it. And what I'll do is I'll put this in the show notes along with your email or whatever additional information you'd like me to share. That way people can find you and all that good stuff. Yes, very good. All right.
I love that. Thank you. And I actually, and I'll say one thing that made me really think about the name, because I think value means a whole lot, especially, Jeff, as you know, inside of Lean Six Sigma, value means a lot. But aim for value because everybody has their own definition of value. So I think when I coach individuals, I find out what they want for value, what they're aiming for, what their goal is, and how they're going to get there. So that's a little story behind the name.
Aim for Value. Well, it's not because you're inexpensive or affordable. It has more to do with the character and like human values that one appreciates and brings forth. Very cool.
Yes, it's the goal that they want to achieve.
Yeah. And Donald, did you look up Najaf on LinkedIn before this interview?
The job?
Najaf.
Najaf.
Oh, Najaf. I'm sorry. No, I didn't. Najaf. No, I didn't. No, I did.
You didn't research him online?
I if it's right or wrong, it's the truth. So there it is.
Najaf, what about you?
I'm not a Facebook person, by the way. Hi, all the Facebook people. Respect. I'm usually mostly using the LinkedIn, and I Googled you, Mr. Donald Stup, because of the question and everything. And I'm really impressed by your background because it tells me you have been working for 28 years for United States Postal Service. Is it correct?
Yeah.
That's very impressive. For 28 years, it's very rare in this generation to find somebody who has been with the same organization, specifically the government, for 30 years. Wow. How did you?
Well, and I would tell you, but you're good at math. But I mean, how do you know I'm not? You're a different generation. So
I know, because I'm saying, like, most of the, if you hear the stories, everybody's saying, I want to be a company 1 year, 6 months, I want to go and change the company, I want to do a different company. So when you hear somebody has been 30 years, that's a great dedication, it's a respect. So, and that's what we need to pass. You don't want to see everybody every year changing a company like the leaves falling from the trees.
Appreciate that.
Look at that. That is fascinating. And so the job, since you researched Donald.
I did not got myself back.
No, which is fine. There was no rule. There's no rule against it. So I'm curious about, so besides the fact that he's been with the post office, or maybe because he's been with the post office that long, what questions came up for you as you were looking through his profile?
Yes, the one came up about the TED conferences. Are you a big fan of the TED shows? I think it's in your LinkedIn profile. Are you interested in TED calls, TED Talks?
To some degree. To some degree, I am, but I don't spend a lot of time doing it. I mean, there's other people that I do follow that I like. So I'll watch a TED, but I don't really subscribe to it like, I'm a follower of it, but I do look at some of them. I do like things on leadership for sure. I like things on coaching, but I can't say that I'm, an avid TED Talk person.
Because
Do you like it?
Yeah, I like it. But the subject you have in a company you started, it's really matching to the broader audience. So that's why when I saw TED, I said, envisioned you at the TED stage and maybe a free ticket for myself to go there.
Wow.
Yeah, well, good. Wow. Now that I know that I'm going to have an audience of one, I might start it.
Always start from the one.
Najaf, you've never asked me that.
Okay. Do you like TED shows?
No, that's fine. This is performative now, so don't worry about it.
I don't want to be in trouble.
No. So this is interesting because I think one thing you mentioned, Donald, in your background obviously is Lean Six Sigma, you said. But for those people who might be listening who are not familiar with that, can you just give us like a deep and brief, what is it? Obviously, Najaf understands what that is and what it's for, but I'm curious if you can just give us a little taste.
Yes, it's a methodology to improve processes, and everything that we do in work, everything we do is a process. So actually, Lean Six Sigma is actually two methodologies. Lean is a methodology to improve efficiency, and Six Sigma is typically a methodology to improve quality. So if you put the two together, you got a lot of synergy, and a lot of companies use it. A lot of the large companies like Boeing and GE. Toyota is the biggest one of all, it just works. When you apply the principles and apply the tools, you can improve most any process if you find out, what your goal is, what your problem is, what's the root cause, and how to address it.
All right, so it's all about methodology to improve processes, right, to ensure better quality. So I'm curious for the two of you, where in your life, and it could be professional, could be personal, could be physical, emotional, mental, doesn't matter. Where in your life would you like to see improvement of process or quality? Or maybe you're working on something right now. What would you say? I'll go first, and maybe this will give you some inspiration. So I think my most recent one is in my fitness, and also energetics, specifically energetics. So I started doing a brand of Tai Chi recently, like super recent.
Wow.
Yeah, so I spend a lot of time here in my work, right? Sitting on computer mostly. Every once in a while, I'll do some in-person workshops and that sort of thing. But I found that I want to get the energy moving in my body more consistently. Tennis is awesome, but it's also physically taxing when I do it. And I thought, well, at this point in my life, I'd love to have something that's much more efficient, to talk about lean, right? And so it's been fascinating because it's called body and brain yoga, and it's based on this Korean philosophy of energy and how to use energy to address all these different systems in our body. And we do it through movement and sometimes focus, tapping different energy centers in the body. It's really fascinating. It's been kind of cool. And as a result, have slept better, feel more rested, feel more grounded. So that's an area that I'm still working. It's super recent. So part of it for me is just getting in the habit of doing something like that on a regular basis. But I'm finding that, that might be great because I like to pay attention to how my body feels about when I choose to do something. So that's mine. What's yours?
I'll let
Okay. Well, the first thing that comes to mind is actually I will go back to my business, because when I say aim to value and it's about coaching, I like the thought of bringing together, because I do coach a lot of executives, and that leadership mentality and changing culture and changing people to help them, like, what's the best version of themselves they look like, and what do they want for their team. So I like the aspect of bringing that aspect, Valerie, into coaching, so that if I could combine the two, I got a skill that I can also, discuss and share at the same time, help them develop, whether it's themselves or the team, and then give them some so-called, let's say, homework or practice, see the next session, see if it worked, and then just see their enjoyment, their happiness, that they were successful. If it didn't go, do they know why didn't it go good? Ask questions like, what did you learn from it? What are you going to try next? And just get them to move through the pathway of their own journey.
Oh, I think that's going to be so powerful for coaching, is to be able to take the methodology and frame it in such a way that individuals could find better processes for living. I can't wait to hear more. Right.
Yeah, it's me. Gosh, okay, let me think. The one thing I can say is, it's coming to my mind about Toastmasters, of course. What I would like to do is I would like to improve the club I am managing. It's a great club. There's so much energy at the club, that the people moving around and very active. But I sense that at some level, the processes built in a club level, it's too relaxed. And that people do not want to come forward and open themselves. Like, there are people who are shy, but they want to come and speak. They want to be at the stage. And I'm thinking, what else I can do? What details I can put in a system that I can help this person to be a better speaker, to be open about everyone. And I've been told, like, one of the members, she was shy about other gender, but she's coming to the club and she's sitting at the club at every single meeting. And she's sometimes gives the responses, but she never comes to stage. I know she wanted, but I need to think about what I can help. How can I encourage this person? What values I can bring to the club, that they can say, you can trust us, be a part of the community altogether. And I haven't found that answer yet. Maybe at the end of the meeting, I will do.
Well, I obviously, I have a bunch of ideas about things like that. But yeah, someone might be listening and going, what's Toastmaster? So can you give us a deep and brief, what is Toastmasters, in case people don't know?
Toastmaster is the public speaking club. It's open to everybody. Actually, full name is a Toastmasters International, which 150 clubs all around the world. So if you want to come and learn speaking skills, if you're shy about yourself, if you want to learn the leadership skills, or you just want to communicate with the people, please come in. There's so many Toastmasters clubs. You can go toastmaster.org and find a club near your community, near your city, near your country, and just go and participate either online or in person, or in hybrid. Toastmasters has all of them. And from there, so many great speakers started from Toastmasters, been TED stages, Toastmaster champions. It's a great way to learn, be part of the community, and just to be a good person, maybe.
Look at that. We have an ad for Toastmasters right here.
I should take this clip.
I know, I should take the clip. I appreciate Toastmasters a lot. For me, I've done a lot of public speaking. So part of it was not necessarily to be more, obviously I can always be more proficient, but it wasn't to get more opportunities to speak. For me, it was more about being more creative. So I've been able to take some risks. I find ways to do things in a different way. For example, I think there was one activity, I guess you could say, where I was the master of ceremonies, the Toastmaster for the day in that particular meeting. And I had people do these for table topics, which is a more extemporaneous portion of the meeting, had them answer these questions from a game. I don't know if you've heard of this game called We're Not Really Strangers.
Oh.
We're Not Really Strangers. It was great. And so they would have to pick a question and ask each other. So it was almost like we were observing. This was before I had this podcast, by the way. So maybe that was part of it, but I would have them pick questions, sit in front of the audience and ask each other questions from this game. So it was all extemporaneous, and it was a great way to get people up front, Yeah, to your point, Najaf, if people are not confident quite yet in being up on their own and doing a 7-minute speech, a couple minutes sometimes is easy, and to do it with a partner. But I love kind of testing myself. I'm like, okay, how can I get more people involved? Or how can we bring in more voices into the room? Or what's a way that I haven't had a chance to run a meeting? And I usually experiment with stuff in Toastmasters, and then I go do it with my paid client.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, it works.
Yeah, it's our testing grounds.
Absolutely. It's my laboratory. It's awesome. Talk about process improvement. Because I get a chance to go, oh, this worked. I'm like, oh, no, I didn't like that. I can't work it like this. I need to change it up. And so, yes, thanks to Toastmasters for that. And I still get a lot of value out of it for that reason.
I do my work presentation at
That's-
Toastmasters. Yeah, sorry, Don.
No, that's good. That's called a pilot. So that's good, Valerie.
Yeah, there you
Is
go.
that-
Good one. Yeah.
Is that where you got that game that you just showed? Is that where you got the Not Quite Strangers?
It was inspired. Yes, I was like, I know there's something in there. My sister-in-law helped me come up with the name Not Quite Strangers. But yeah, there was something about knowing that people are connected anyway. I always kind of operate that way, with the assumption that we're all connected anyways. It's our job to figure out how. That's when curiosity comes in. I think, Donald, you said something similar when you're talking about coaching, and and Najaf, you said you learn something from everybody, right? So all these things, these themes, like, yeah, we're already connected. Is if we're open enough and curious enough, we'll figure out how, right? In a way that's interesting or meaningful. So that's what I try to do anyways.
Awesome.
Yeah. Donald, what questions do you have?
So, about leadership, tell me about leadership. What appeals to you leadership when you hear that word? Or tell me a little bit about you, your leadership, what you've learned, and just want to know what you think about it when I say the word leadership.
Oh, me? I have to answer the question?
Donald already knows me, the job.
Excuse me for that. Leadership. The way I see the leadership, maybe I'm still new to this, but what I see it when I manage somebody, there's not a lot, but I manage. What I want to do is I want to give a person an opportunity to express himself or herself, to tell me what the person wants to do. I'm thinking in a way of letting the person to spread the wings and be more creative, to come with an ideas. I have been at the environments when the people were just dictating the rules and they're expecting to follow. I understand for the safety reasons, but I realized over the time when I started taking over the position and telling people what to do, telling the people directly go and do that, it's not an effective way managing the people, because everyone has a different ideas and different perspectives. So as a leader, I think you need to be open for the discussions and open to listen to the other side. And if you're wrong about something, do not afraid to hide your face, just openly come and admit, I think my idea wasn't as productive as your subordinate's idea is. And let's try your way, because I think we can get more value from that. That's how I understand the leadership. And that's what I want to encourage others to. I don't want to be the person who is limiting when there's a new ideas come. And I'm looking always at the example of Steve Jobs, for example. If you look at him, his door, when he started, he said, my door is open. If you have any new ideas, bring it in. And John Ivey came to him with the beautiful iPhone design, and he took it from there on. He was a good manager, but the ideas was always coming from around him. And that's how I want to be.
Very nice.
If it's in a narrative, it's still a new leadership learning.
No, I like that. I mean, honestly, I think that's good, because you want to keep the new ideas flowing, especially the people that do the work, right? Because they know their job better than anyone, and you don't want to shut that down. A lot of times, managers, not leaders, will manage people and will dictate what they want, or they shut down ideas instead of having that mindset of support and that mindset of leadership where you got your own principles of respect and humility, so that you're thinking about the other person. You want to hear what the other person thought, and you want to give them that ability, because if they take that ability to come up with an idea, right? They take that ownership and it's their idea. If you're their manager or their leader, you don't need to give any energy behind that because it's their idea and they want to be right, right? People want to be right.
Right.
So let them run with it. And if it's good and they do the work, they typically know what the problems are. And most people that do jobs, they find little easy ways to do things to make it better. It's like, well, why am I doing it this way? This would be better. And they know all those little tips and tricks and things that they can do. Just learn from them, and they're the ones that know what to do. So good. I think I like that idea of keep the information flowing and don't shut down ideas, because then you shut down people and you shut down trust, and then you shut down your company.
But from process point of view, because I am not a Six Sigma expert, from that process, is it a good way to establish, or is there any additional steps you can implement as a Six Belt Sigma coach on the process? Just saying, ideas should be.
Yeah, to your point, you can, because you talk to people that are involved in the process because you want to hear their voice, because they're a customer, an internal customer. So you're hearing their pain, and they're talking about their pain, and they're talking about what it does. And then they also might talk about the actual customer, what the pain is for them. So you learn about it. So what you do for Lean Six Sigma is you share some of the tools that can help flush out that pain, help flush out what is the root cause. How do we know if it's a root cause? And then what can we do as possible improvements, right? Is it a big benefit? Is it a little benefit? Does that benefit come with a lot of effort or a little effort? Because what you really want is a big benefit with not much effort, right? So you talk to them and you learn from them, because that's the biggest thing you can do, in my opinion, is if any project that I'm going to work on, I go to where the work is being done, and I talk to the people and I listen to the people, and then I can share tools and maybe different mapping processes like a spaghetti mapping or things that shows the actual waste or shows what isn't lean and what can be lean. And then teach them, like, this is some tools you can do to make it better. And they typically will get excited because they're talking about something they know, and it's going to make their job better, going to make it easier, and make them want to come to work and make them want to share what they're doing and just have better days and more productivity and easier.
Yeah, just a quick point on that one, because you started talking about the Lean Six Sigma belt. I think this our time, we need to have a second session also about the spaghetti system. I love to hear more about that.
Sounds like you might need to get some coaching from Aim for Value.
I'm on website already. I'm checking that.
And Valerie, you know what? If I get one class from him, I'm going to come back. You invite me next week, the following week.
It was just, Donald, I actually did mention to you, you might enjoy this process of having conversations with people and doing some interventions, if you will, around process and improvements. I think, that's what coaching really is. Coaching is helping individuals find a better way to fulfill their goals or to overcome challenges and to, like you said, discover the root cause for some things, because there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of guidance. And speaking of information and guidance, I'm going to go back to something that Najaf, you mentioned this earlier when you were talking about your desire to write, if you could go back, right, to that age. So thinking for you, and actually this question comes from the last episode of this podcast that I did. I asked the guests to come up with some questions. And the question was, what advice would you give your younger selves? Like when you think about at any point in time, it could be when you first came into the workforce, it could be when you were a child and a teenager, it doesn't matter. What advice would you give your younger self, and why? Both of you. Wow.
It's deep. It's
Yeah,
very.
I know you're sharing a whole lot of emotion over there, so I'm just enjoying the show. I want you to go first. I know what I would tell to myself if I go back around maybe 15, 16. I would just say, be easy on yourself. Don't be too tough. Life can change back and forth, but you're 16, you're 15 years, enjoy the full rainbow, there's a big horizon ahead of you. And I wasn't like that. I was really tough and strict on myself. And I was spending my summers reading and translating the books when the kids were outside and playing. And I was taking some harsh labor jobs. And then I feel like maybe I spent my youth the way I didn't want to spend, but I am still proud where I am. It's not about that. But I always want to go back and say, take it easy. Do not stress too much. As soon as I remember, I watched the Forrest Gump, I just get an idea that, I need to be somebody else in life and I need to work hard or something like that. Just came to mind. Yeah. And then I just take it easy. Take it easy. It's good.
Take it easy. I like that about the horizon. There's a entire horizon in front. That's huge. I think we can all use that advice and a lot of different things in life. When things get serious or when things get too complex, right? Life is going to be complex anyways, but I think the approach, how we're being about it, is what makes it joyful or makes it painful in some cases, right? So yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah. Donald, what about for you? What advice would you give your younger self? Why?
I would probably say the opposite of what Najaf said, actually. Yeah, because I would say pay attention, set a goal, be disciplined, follow through, and do it. Because I didn't have that. I didn't have a lot of goals, so I didn't aim for value, really. I aimed for being comfortable, right? But I've learned that being comfortable really is not the best path, because there's me now, right? That's you. It's me, right? But there's also me 10 years from now, and there's me 30 years from now, right? So if I think about myself, I have to think about myself at each level. And as we all know, sometimes you got to delay some gratification right now and put some effort into, whether if it's college or whatever you're doing, to get your future self in a better state, right? And I focus too much of my current state without having a goal and discipline to get to where I want more. I kind of more or less rode the journey, where I think if I was going to give my advice to my younger self, I would be, I'm not going to say harsh. I'm just going to say, enjoy the journey and enjoy the struggle, because the struggle is where you find value. The struggle is where you learn. The struggle is when you fail, it's like, oh, that sucks, and I don't want to experience that again. So what am I going to do? Not try because I failed and that was a bad experience, and won't try anything new again, instead of being like, I can do this. Because I think when you realize that the problems that you have are just the problems, but if you view yourself as the person that can actually solve that problem, that you can actually master it, if you're the one that can do it and you take that responsibility, it gives you a different mindset. So I would give my mindset that I have now to my younger self.
I think where you're coming from. Are you serious? You saying something, Valerie?
No, this is lovely.
I sense where you're coming from, Donald, and I completely agree with you. That's a great view to have in the life, to encourage other young, whatever that you are, to have it. So your perspective is, when I read the philosophers, Seneca, Dostoevsky, and the rest of them, they have one idea, which is connect exactly what you're saying right now. self-discovery starts from the suffering. So you have to do something really harsh, even above yourself, to realize what you can do and do it better. And if we can establish that in our youth, we definitely can have like it. But I think that's what I read when I read this tough novels and stories in my 15 and 16 and old. I was really want to go through the struggle, that I felt that pain to discover myself, that I think at some point, maybe that was too heavy on me and I should have done it differently. But now I reread the book and I see, oh, that can be a little bit poison for the 15-year-old.
Poison. Wow.
Yeah, it's very tough stories about the poverty and the real life and the struggle from 17th and 18th century. And if you read, for example, Seneca, his letters to his son, how to be a good diplomat and to understand the real life of meaning that you need to win over the friend, it's coming from the point as Donald was mentioning earlier.
This is really,
it sounds like, I mean,
go ahead, Don.
yeah, I mean, you sound well read reading a lot of those things, psychology and stuff. I mean, honestly, that's impressive to me to have that type of knowledge and read those type of books. So, I mean, to me, it's like, it's down the pathway of being a good writer. So you feel you can write, right?
Full circle.
Thank you.
That's right.
Thank you. I will go to your website. I'm looking at your website.
And I love this conversation. I think I don't know what advice I would give my younger self, to be honest. I think it sounds, I love the life that I've had so far, and I've learned some things along the way. And I trust that everything I learned, I learned when I was supposed to. I think there's some things that I would like to remember as I continue to live, right? Things to keep front of mind. And a big one I discovered accidentally, really, in my experience over the last few years, is about the discipline to experience joy. There's a discipline involved in feeling good and fulfilled and whole, because the world pulls at us in so many different ways. This is how you should make money. This is the kind of relationships you have. These are the kind of friendships. This is the car you should drive. This is the house you should live in. Like, there's so much information about how one should live and how it should go, that I think the pressure sometimes overcomes our ability to realize, does this fit for me? Does this feel right for me? And funny enough, I was having a coaching session just yesterday with someone who was really finding it hard time finding the discipline in doing, having some regular activities that they wanted to do. And I was like, well, what does that activity bring you when you do it? Like, how does it feel? And when they shared the feelings, the emotions, like, oh, fulfilled and energized and strong and capable and achievement, I'm like, cool. So it sounds like you're really chasing the feeling more than the activity. And it was like, yeah. And as I was saying that, I was like, yeah, me too. I feel like my life has really been about joy and experiencing connection but always the discipline is figuring out, okay, if I'm not feeling it, is not stop doing it. It means, how do I now find another way to do it so that I get more connected, so that I feel that joyful? And it does take some discipline. And I want to go back. I think, Najaf, you mentioned this person in Toastmasters who wants to get up and speak more, but they're kind of shy or whatever. When someone says that they want to have more confidence, that's what they say. Like, I want to have more confidence. I want to feel more confident. Like, the only way to get to confidence is through courage. Right? You have to be courageous in doing something new. Like, Donald, doing the hard things, right? Stepping out of a comfort zone. And the courage, practice often enough, leads to confidence, because, like, okay, I know how not to do it, or I know how to do it better now that I've done it a few times. But so those are the kind of messages that I want to keep front of mind, that confidence comes with courage, and that the discipline in my life is the discipline for joy. Like, how do I do whatever I need to do it steady, do it well, do it with passion, but always finding the joy in the process. And if it's not joyful, I'm not doing it right.
You have to enjoy. You have to enjoy from the process. And I always say, like, until you try the first step, until you do the first step, you never realize what the second step is going to bring it to, But you have to try that first step. And if you do that and you enjoy it, then the whole the broad of experience just opened ahead of you.
Yeah.
And that's why I became two, because I didn't know anything about Toastmasters. And I was shy to be in front of it. I remember my first speech, I memorized every single one. But now when I go and speak after so many years, I don't even have a script sometimes because I know the way I want to convey the message, but it just takes to the journey.
Yeah, it's the courage. This has been fascinating. I would love to hear a little bit now, shifting gears a bit. What has it been like being on this podcast, talking to a stranger? How's that been for you guys?
Are we strangers? Are we?
Not quite.
That could be a good tagline for Valerie, but anyway. Well, I mean, for me, it's just, I think it's good. The experience is good because I'm meeting someone new and learning, but there's also someone that's familiar. So that person that's familiar, like Valerie, is a good, like on my Zoom camera, she's the bridge between us, right? So it's almost like you're not quite a stranger because, you know, Valerie knows you. So you're, you know, what do they call the Kevin Bacon 7 degrees? Is that
7
what it
degrees
is?
of Valerie.
You know,
That's my next podcast.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think it bridges that gap very easily, and it's good. And it doesn't take long, really, right? A lot of times when you meet someone, even if on a plane, you find a common interest, and then you're talking the whole flight, right? So it's just a matter of, like you said earlier, courage. It takes courage to actually step up and say something and to share something about yourself. It's courage, right? So, you know, and again, to Valerie's point, to do it with joy and to find joy in it. And so it's been enjoyable, Valerie.
Cool. I'm glad to hear that.
In my opinion, I don't think we're quite strangers here. And the reason why I'm saying it, yeah, because we already connected on LinkedIn, and I'm visiting your website, and I'm having a communication over here. No, what I love about this show, Valerie, is, you know, Donald is such a unique person. When I look at his LinkedIn profile, your background is really, I'm sorry, it's still there. I mean, just keep saying that. I'm really fascinated by all your accomplishments, all your career paths, all your certificates. And now it inspires me to learn what you have and to find out the way you learned it and continue that path. And I'm looking at your website and just still understanding, wow, the name you came up for your own company, it's such a unique and interesting. I was thinking about something like to do it myself, but I'm going to review everything what you put on your website. And I would like to get your contact if Valerie allows emails. I can continue the communication afterwards in a good way. Yeah,
for a good price. I aim for value.
Yeah, that's right.
What I don't get it from this show is the picture you have. I have this question all the time. I want to ask you, where is that picture's coming behind you, Donald?
Well, it's a picture I have hanging in my office, but it's a picture of a palm tree because I do live in South Carolina. So I love palm trees. I love everything about South Carolina. It's wonderful. So live close to the beach, so it's warm. Don't like cold weather, but it's not as warm as Texas because I know you're from Texas. So Texas has got some major heat. I was there not too long ago. Every day was above 100 degrees. So God bless you in that kind of weather.
Yeah.
But I want to tell you, like, some things you said I picked up on too, Najaf, is like with Toastmasters. I never thought about it. Well, yeah, I think I'm gonna go and look at it and explore because, you know, I thought it was just about speech, but you told me about other things, and like Valerie said, I didn't know it was a laboratory at the same time. So I'm going to explore it. I am. I'm going to explore it, and that just comes from you sharing it. So I thank you. I appreciate that.
Made my day. Thank you, Mr. Ben. Thank you, Donald.
Yay! All right. So I asked you both a question that the previous guest came up with, right? About the advice. What question do you think I should ask the next guest that's on the podcast?
From this show or just generally?
Yeah, the next guest from my podcast, what question do you think I should ask them? If you each have a question or one question.
Random question or specific?
It doesn't matter. Yeah, random. Something that you think would be good for them to be asked.
I have one.
Sure.
I just had a question. What's your favorite food?
Favorite food? Okay, cool.
Donald,
do you have one?
I'm thinking. Maybe. Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Very philosophical.
Yeah.
All right, cool. And then, so that the listeners, even though they may not be on this podcast necessarily, so they feel that they're a part of this experience of this laboratory that we've created. What's a challenge or an invitation that you want to extend to anyone who's been listening to us for this past hour? Either one of you.
I would say, if you listen to it, what made you keep listening? And the answer to that question, what made you keep listening, then what makes you think you can't do it tomorrow with whoever?
To keep listening?
Yeah, to keep listening and have a conversation with not quite a stranger, and you're just sharing about yourself and you're learning about someone else. So it's kind of like this easy. So, just people are fascinating, and you can learn that people are fascinating, but you might be surprised that they will find you fascinating too.
That is true. All right. So keep listening, talk to someone that's not quite stranger, and find something fascinating about them and something fascinating to share about yourself. Cool. Najaf, anything you want to add there?
The same way of thinking, we in an interactive world right now, and sometimes we're just having this conversation through online. If you think that you have something in you that you want to share about others, doesn't matter about yourself, about the belief or books or job experiences, please come in. Don't be a stranger. There's always a people will be welcome to hear about you, and you will be learning about them as well. So this is a great program to be a part of it, and I'm really excited, and I'm so grateful, Miss Valerie, inviting me here. And I'm definitely going to watch all your previous podcasts, and please post the 14 missing ones too.
Well, if you're going to watch all of them, I'd like for you to write a summary of each one that I can. Yes. Oh, you can be my blogger, Najaf.
I love it. Your website. Yeah, I like it.
Speaking of that, now that's a good point, Valerie. So, Valerie, so here's a challenge to you. So, since we connected, right, you have to bring us back, especially after Najaf writes his first book, right? First manuscript, right? We can talk about it, right?
Yes.
And we do want to have a little bit of recognition in there, Najaf. So it is DONALDSTUT, right? Okay. Aim for value again. Remember
yes.
That? Hashtag aim for value.
We're more than welcome to come back anytime. And of course, Najaf, when your book hits the New York Times bestseller list or is made into a Netflix movie, or we will be here to celebrate. And Donald
Jeff,
can
honestly,
coach you.
We'll give you my contact. You can contact me anyhow, and I'd be more than happy to give you how about this? A free coaching session, anything you want to talk about, especially how you're going to be a great writer and how to get started. I'll help you out, whatever you need.
Wow, that's awesome, Donald. Thank you so much. Wow, I'm grateful. I'm really obliged I don't know what to say. What I can say is, I can help you with the Toastmasters if you need any help. That's how far I can stretch my wings.
Hey,
I like it.
look at that. Already, not only the connection established, but you're already making contributions to one another well beyond this information. Thank you both so much. Thanks for saying yes. Thanks for asking interesting questions, being curious about each other, being open to share, right? All of those things I think are of definitely high value, right? For not only one another, but also I think anyone who's been tuning in. Very cool. And for those of you who have been tuning in, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you. And continue to do so, as Donald has mentioned, right? And Najaf, share something of yourself with someone else, right? Whatever advice, resource, something that's important, something meaningful. And of course, mark us favorite or like us, follow us on your favorite podcasting platform so that you don't miss a single episode moving forward. I appreciate you all tuning in. I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of the day. Donald, Najaf, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for
Thank you,
having us.
Valerie. Thank you,
Enjoy it.
Najaf.
Good evening, Mr. Don.
You've been listening to the podcast Not Quite Strangers. Be sure to subscribe or follow on your favorite video or podcast platform. And for more information and content, go to notquitestrangers.com. See you next time.